Okay, that took a little bit longer to set up than I was hoping for. I couldn't find what I was using, but I found a new alternative, which is free, basically, for a stand. It's been a very long time. My name is Aaron Klein. I did say I'd keep updating. Eh, that's what I get. I have a cold. Today's a day off. I figured I'm not going out, and my brain's at like 99% capacity. Once in a while, it gets a little off, but that's okay. So I figured I'd hop on hop on and make a video. Yep, my voice is failing me. It's all head cold, so like my voice is gonna be bad. I'm gonna have to cough and stuff, but that's how it is. Okay. I'm working on, in the back of my head, you know how that goes. I'm working on identifying where Eastern, Western, and then, well, Eastern and Western traditions lay. I'm pretty sure Western uh, religions stemming from Judaism and Christianity and Neoplatonism and the ancient Greek tradition and religion. I'm pretty sure those are a form that, as in comparison to Eastern traditions like Hinduism and Buddhism. I think those are two opposed traditions. Even though like you can get wisdom from one that translates directly into the other, I think they have two different they have two different worldviews. Not even worldviews, underlying theories of reality. The Western tradition is more like there is a meta hero that our brains map onto. Our brains are predisposed to map onto language, stories, and then the organizing principle of those stories, something like that. And that actually boils down to that there's a god and he created a meta hero, which you probably can point at and figure it out. In Christianity, it's Jesus, which is God, but you can point to the hero, and most people actually know what this hero is, and actually his worldview is the view that we map onto, but we differentiate from. Whereas in Eastern traditions, their goal is to say that there is no self. The Western says there is a self, but you have to start by modeling yours. Like to begin with, there's not. But you have to build one up and model it. And in fact, Christianity says you have to let that die a couple of times before you get to where you're going. The Eastern traditions say there is no self. It's all just experience. And that actually poses two very different worldviews. That actually means that the Eastern mystics are going to have extremely different practices than Western mystics, which is why, like, you're going to have very different pieces of wisdom come from them. So, to put into perspective some wisdom-making faculties of Western traditions, I'm reading them now, actually. Oh, one second. Close enough. Brothers Grimm fairy tales, they should be held like a step below the Bible. And why I say that is the Western tradition holds that the human brain is a library that your soul lives within and maps the world onto. Whereas the Eastern tradition says that there is no soul, but you still have that library. But the library affects you. The library is what is driving you. So there's still this shadow element to the Eastern tradition, which I don't understand. But the Western tradition says it's more Jungian. It says the world is. I'm going to sound possibly heretical, but that's okay. The world is made up of sort of two beings, 1.5. There is the being of order that governs and organizes reality, and then there is a materia that sort of acts like a being, but that's more so because there's rules that it maps, that reacts to when it maps itself onto the library of the organizing being. And I say this like maps as in like laying a map is a two-dimensional version, a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional space. When you map something onto something, you're actually condensing the thing that you've identified, and condensing it down to a lower level of resolution. You flatten it from a fourth-dimensional object to a three-dimensional object. And that's where like this is like where I believe that my religious views are like the front runner on the way Christianity is about to go. And like I would have to write a book on this because it's like I will have to go through and find all of the quotes I need. I have another book here. Give me 1 second. You can actually I'll walk to it and you can watch me walk to it. Where did I put it? It may be in my car, which is not good. 1 second. Nope, it was by my bed. A Hero of a Thousand Faces. Yeah, it's mirrored. You're just gonna have to trust me. This is what that book is. I'm almost certain that there is an archetypal description of how God behaves. He is first the hero that becomes king, that becomes the sage, in that sort of like in that order. And what I mean by that is like that's how men have to handle the world. First, as a hero, you go out into the unknown and you conquer it and make the world out of it. Then you reign over it and handle the you have to govern it for a while and learn how the parts of it that don't you have to worry about. First, actually I'll put it like this. Yeah, the hero does go out into the unknown and conquer it and make the world out of it. But then that's expanding dominion. Then there is the king that has to solve the chaos within his dominion. And then after he gets good enough at that, he faces an internal crisis. Then he has to... The sage is the man that has sought out the chaos within himself and has sorted that out too. Those are like the three. Those are the three form. I think that's the threefold form of God in a sense. And once you've accomplished all three of those, you become good. You can actually start. You go from this to this. You start being able to write stories that are so powerful and so resonant that they build the world for those who follow after you in your footsteps. And this is like where I think sort of that where was I going with that? Again, 99%. This is where I sort of think that Father, Son, Spirit lies within. I think that, and I don't mean any of them to be greater than the other. In fact, I think God is the abstraction, the meta soul of reality that can inhabit all three of those at the same time. The hero in this case would be Christ. The Father in this case would be the king, and the Spirit is the sage. And in fact, I think that I've actually identified a version of this, like, how do I put this? The best interpretation to understand the Holy Spirit is that of something akin to Odin from Norse mythology. That's why I said sage, right? In fact, I think most people should be constantly playing with all three of these at any one time. In fact, these make like really good artists. Someone who at an early age had to conquer something that they weren't supposed to have to conquer yet, or that had to I wouldn't say conquer. I think they'd have to combat something that was greater than they were supposed to have to combat. And there's damage there, but in that damage there's real beauty. And people tend to heal. People who do tend to heal from those tend to be really wise, really beautiful people. So this is where I'm actually thinking that Christianity is a shamanic tradition with secrets, but not secrets in like the Sophia way, like secrets in like the Athena way. You've had to battle your way out of your own hell to get access to. In fact, I think this is why I'm saying it's shamanic. I think it's a death and rebirth. The Eastern traditions say there is no ego. It's something that you've constructed. While the Christians say, no, there is one, but it has to be subservient. You are a tabernacle. You are a perpetuating tabernacle of God. I think that's where Christianity is going right now. But I think like that's the way it's been. Some small updates on my religious beliefs. I've become really hazy just because of all the evidence and just because of all the people who I shouldn't take at face value, because I think they have bad intentions at heart. I think sometimes they do speak words of truth, so like I don't take them entirely at face value, but I think that I'm really sketchy on. First of all, I'm only using Septuagint now. That one I can't grab. I'm using my Britain Septuagint. That's the first thing. Second thing, like I'm sketchy on most publications of the Old Testament. Second thing, I'm more sketchy on timelines. I'm pretty sure that the Pentateuch, the first five, they're just in order. They're not in written order. I think they are put there as an organizational practice. They are put there. They were written later. I'm actually skeptical to think that they were written. I think the stories probably were kept in language and passed down for a long time, and then they were written directly into the Greek when the Septuagint was written. I think that seems like a really key thing, because like it's really well written. So what I think happened is the original stories were passed traditionally down through the priestly generations, and then after paper or papyrus were given to them, and they had a solid language, because they lost their original written and verbal language when they went to Babylon. So once like they finally have Greek again, like they had Aramaic and they were writing in Aramaic, but they decided, since everything's being upgraded to Greek, like how most Bibles nowadays are translated directly into English and then translated outside of that. They translated the Aramaic directly into Greek, but then in doing so, I think they brushed up the stories. So, what does that mean in terms of my beliefs? Um, I don't know, and I don't even know if I really care about the how old the Earth is. I'm still in the boat of it. It's probably a couple million years old. I don't think billions and trillions. Like I think like the universe is probably only a couple million years old. There is that, and some of that also has to do with the fact that like different calculating origin points give different or what's the value? There's a value that gives a rate of dispersion throughout the world. If you use different methods, you get different. They are different enough dispersion rates that like we'll see. Because I actually think that this is gonna sound really funny. I think that we didn't explode out. I think we are. I think that everything was brought together, and then gravity is pulling things apart. I think we are expanding out faster because we are in a gravitational. It's not like a vacuum. It's like we're falling in a fourth dimensional way. I know that's hard to explain to most physicists, but I think like I'm no longer trapped in a three-dimensional scientific realm because of my belief system. So I think we're actually in a fourth dimensional fall outwards. To put it into perspective, it would be like the center, a three-dimensional center, could be a high point in a fourth dimensional plane, and we're just falling out in a fourth dimensional gravity field. What else? Oh yeah, also the reason why I'm sort of believing that is because like I'm reading. I'll just start with Genesis 1. In the Septuagint, in the beginning God made the heaven and the earth, but the earth was unsightly and unfurnished, and darkness was over the deep. And the Spirit of God moved over the water, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. That language is, I'm saying this as someone who's written a lot now. That language is it's beautiful. It's someone who took a lot of time and creativity into making God as intelligible as possible when he revealed these words. It took someone with a lot of care, a lot of gratitude and love and appreciation and reverence for God to write these words. But it was a human that wrote them, which is also another reason why I think God is human, because like that was first couple verses of Genesis. just my experience from writing, the whole Bible feels like that now. It's so beautiful. And it feels like it's a lost art because we keep reading it literally, when in fact if we read it like a beautiful story that someone's taking their time on, it feels like it. And that I think that's something that we've lost as the more recent as the more recent texts have come out. And also another part of what's going on, someone explained this to me on the internet. I know this is weird, but I think part of what's going on is that Greek is a more philosophical language and Latin is a more executive, law-based language. So, like, they're going to read similarly when they translate in English, but the Greek there was really beautiful. The Latin, it's probably just as beautiful when it gets translated, but it's not quite as well orchestrated. That's where I'm at right now. In fact, quick little update, I'm working on 2 books right now. 2 books. I restarted book 2. The name of that is going to be Elisha, the Fire of Salvation. I think I've said that already. That's one of them. The other book I'm calling Neogenesis right now. I haven't gotten there, but I'm going to write the creation mythology that I'm going to reveal within book 2. Like I don't know if I'm slotting this into book 2 or if I'm going to write it as a separate book and just release it a couple months later. But this is I'll just be honest with publishers. This is going in. I don't care if we want to do which one that we want to do first, but the Neogenesis, it's going to be very different. Like it's not. No, it's going to be very similar to normal Genesis, but it's going to be updated. And it's going to be. I'm gonna probably write 2 versions of it. One's going to be more so for the new book, for my series, and one's going to be for the Bible. And I'm going to piss a lot of people off. I will, if it hasn't happened yet, they will not allow me back into my church, the one that I had been attending, my Church of Christ here. That's okay. That's okay.